Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast. And Larry, I didn't know how to start this podcast because when I woke up, the first thing I checked on my phone, Raphael Varane was confirmed. So I thought, okay, this is going to be a great day. Then a few hours later at 11 o'clock, New South Wales and Sydney gets told we've got another 4 weeks in lockdown. So I'm not sure if it's been a good day or a bad day.
Well, it's all about balance, Tom. I like to have a packet of chips after I've just eaten a salad. So we'll just have to take the good with the bad. Look, the lockdown will end. Raphael Varane will be playing for United, and hopefully we'll be in the pub singing before you know it.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, I'm not sure if he's listening yet, but he definitely will tune in at some stage. But Adam from the Supporters Club, a couple of months ago, we ordered some flags. So I've got a Scott McTominay and Bruno Fernandes flag printed out, which they look fantastic. But we obviously aren't going to be at the pub, so he is sending them my way. Obviously making sure we don't meet up in all these COVID restrictions. But I'll be hanging them proudly in the lounge room, not the pub, for the Leeds match, which isn't long away. It's only, a bit over less than 3 weeks, 3 weeks away, maybe, August the 14th. So it's getting
3
there.
weeks. Yeah, but, it's not far. It's creeping up.
Yeah, getting there. So obviously our first sort of Premier League test. We've got Brentford today, which we'll get into in the preview. But if you are watching, if you could like the video, that would be great. And just throw in any comments, and we'll just pretty much just bounce ideas off each other in regards to the preview, who should play, who shouldn't play. We appreciate all the support. There's a few comments in here which we'll get into. Stefan says, what are your 3 outgoings from the squad, lads? And if they are to be sold, should they be involved in pre-season games? Well, we won't get into the full debate, but we've discussed that before, Larry, in terms which we'll get into preview on the Brentford match. But I don't like the idea of, especially, and I don't want to pick on him, but Heath Chong. Again, I don't want to see him play in this game just for the sheer fact that, well, he's not going to be a United player in 2-3 weeks. He's taken away the preparation time of someone else. So do you think now going into this Brentford game, it's a real, okay, it's no longer 45 minutes and 45 minutes. He's going to maybe start to give his preferred starting 11, maybe 55, 60 minutes, or do you think it's still going to be more of the same?
No, I think he will start to integrate his first team players. Undoubtedly, we've seen what the title of this video, Donny's back. We need to start seeing the likes of Donny van de Beek getting some time in these trial matches. He needs to get his match fitness. He hasn't kicked the ball in God knows how long. So it's time for the Dutchman to get his opportunity. And I like to see this flexibility now. Now that we know Varane is coming in, use Van de Beek, see if he can play in that deeper position or in one of those 8 positions. We've seen these links about a 4-3-3. We saw in the way we've lined up against QPR that there seems to be maybe not a clear cut 4-3-3, but you can see that there is a transition to how United do want to play a bit more of a broader midfield. So I would like to see that happen. And I think you will see the likes of McTominay play in this game. I don't think, did Chong even feature in the last match? From memory, he didn't.
I don't think he did. He scored in the derby match. So yeah,
he didn't feature against QPR. So yeah, I think you will start to see as we naturally progress. Bruno Fernandes seems to be back at training, so maybe he'll feature.
Well, that's another good thing in terms of, and we don't want to make this a Bruno v Pogba thing, but that is a real positive at the moment because Bruno is back. Obviously, won't be involved in this match against Brentford. But does that show the side of the argument where Pogba does get a lot of hate? They went out not early in the Euros, but they both had the same amount of time off. Bruno's back getting to work, and Pogba is still about gallivanting around the USA. And look, he's well within his right to take that time off, and every player is different. They've got different fitness regimes. I'm sure Pogba's working hard on his own fitness individually. But it's a bad look for Pogba, but a very good look for Bruno Fernandes. And I just put the tweet out on my own personal Twitter a couple of minutes ago saying, we've done some very good business so far. Jadon Sancho and Varane, very unlike United. It is very positive to see. One thing I do want the club to pursue, though, is tie Bruno Fernandes down to a new contract because he's obviously coming on that first wage from Sporting Lisbon. He's now seeing new players like Sancho, Varane, I'm sure Martial, Rashford, Pogba, De Gea, all on these huge wages, all sort of much more expensive than Bruno Fernandes. We can't let the ball. We can't go to sleep with Bruno Fernandes. We need to make sure he gets tied down to a new contract and he's sort of given a new wage that reflects his importance to the team. And his importance to the team in a roundabout way, he's coming back to that. He's back getting to work, showing what needs to be done. And the superstar, as much as we both like Paul Pogba, isn't back getting work done.
Yeah, the Pogba not being back thing is really interesting. I'm actually starting to believe that he's actually going to leave United, Tom. Just that you're seeing the narrative around it. Solskjaer's comments around, oh, no, all my dialect with Pogba suggests that he's excited for the upcoming season. It just reeks at the moment, doesn't it? I'm not sure what's happening there, but every other player who went out in the final 16 is back, except Paul Pogba. So I think we'll just have to see how that one develops. But totally with you on the Bruno Fernandes debate. And I think he will sign a new deal. Undoubtedly, like United aren't naive. I'm sure Bruno's agent is in there demanding it as well. But in saying that, he's still got, I think, 3 years left on his deal. So
it's not an urgent thing, but it's something that you don't want to see that go into 2 years, and then in 2 years we're thinking, oh, geez, then it goes into a year. I just think it's something I think he deserves a new contract for what he has brought to United. I think, okay, you can let it go another year and then negotiate, but I think he deserves it now. But we'll get into it. Antonio's left a comment in here saying, put the flags in the background of the podcast. I've just got one of my flags there. So, Larry, if you remind me before the end of the podcast, I'll show you one of my flags. But he's also said here, which was probably the next topic, if Shaw and Tellez are injured for the Leeds match, who's our back four? And not so much in terms of the back four, in terms of the Leeds match I'd go to, but the fears have been confirmed with Alex Tellez. It's not just a rolled ankle. He's seemingly going to be out for a few months, or maybe not a few months, but definitely the first month of the season. So are we pinning all our hopes on Luke Shaw coming back fit, or are you almost preparing yourself for Brendan Williams to be the left back against Leeds?
I think Luke Shaw will play. There's enough out there around rib injuries that suggests he will be fine. Like, you can play with a rib injury. It's just a serious discomfort. Normally, and I'm only saying this, I've spoken from personal experience. You just get a painkiller injection, you can generally play with it. It's a serious discomfort though. So it'll be what United's approach is to it. Do they look to preserve Luke Shaw, knowing that it is a long season where he'll likely be expected to play 50-odd games? Or do you take a reserved approach, keep a Brendan Williams, for example, for the Leeds match, get Luke Shaw back fit, and then you allow him to go out on his loan? So it'll be interesting to see how United manage that one. We've also seen the likes of Tuanzebe deployed in a left-back position. So does he go with a Tuanzebe who has played well there, albeit with the odd an occasional error? I think if you're choosing tomorrow, you're going to see Brendan Williams at left back simply because there's just a lack of options there. The one we've spoken about, well, at least I have at nauseum, is Ethan Laird. He hasn't been in the preseason games, which is interesting. But look, if you're a betting man, you're saying it's Brendan Williams for the Leeds match.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Prem here has just said in regards to the Pogba discussion we're just having, I'll assume players' return dates are scheduled with the clubs after the Euros. Would be a shame if Pogba was delaying it intentionally. And that's the thing. I don't want to go too hard on Pogba because very well he's maybe doing this by the book and he has this time off. And that's probably what I do expect. I don't expect any sort of ill feeling towards Pogba towards the club. But the thing is with this, you're not surprised that Bruno is getting back to work, and you're not surprised Pogba is away from the team. It's just a look. It's how you perceive it. You don't want to go too hard on Pogba, but it's just a little bit. It's a little bit flat when you see there's so much positivity around the club at the moment. You think, that could be better. But Sire has also said, can't wait to see Varane in a full sleeve shirt with the number 4 in Old Trafford. Also, do we have the best back four in the Premier League? And before we just sort of go into the real preview of that, and sort of follows up Antonio's question earlier, on paper we probably do have the best back four. But people maybe want to throw the goalkeeper as at a back 5. But in terms of that back 4, when you line them out on the formation, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, okay, definitely going forward, there's better right backs, but there's no doubt that defensively he's the best right back in the league. Luke Shaw, best left back in the league. Harry Maguire, you definitely put in the top 3 alongside some City, and obviously got Virgil van Dijk returning. But if you've got Harry Maguire in that top 3, you definitely throw in Raphael Varane and maybe even ahead of him in the top 3. So would you go along with that, saying we do have the best back 4?
Yeah, absolutely. On paper, what they actually do on the pitch is, it still hasn't been seen. But yeah, absolutely. You look at what all 3 of the current United players have done, and Raphael Varane just purely complements that. What we're looking to do on this podcast, and I'm happy I have consulted Tom on this, we will get a Real Madrid fan who is also a football coach, which is good. We'll get him to come on here and actually analyze what Raphael Varane does actually bring to this team. I think all of us are excited by it, but we probably don't watch La Liga religiously enough. But undoubtedly, Tom, I think that is the most complete back 4. I think Wan-Bissaka's position is there to be taken. And if I'm being entirely honest, I'm not saying I'm going to even suggest that he should be replaced, but he is at a crucial point where there does need to be an evolution to his game. I think we need to see an improvement going forward. Otherwise, there will be an argument to say, not that he's not good enough for United, but can you potentially upgrade what he brings to the side?
I think he's very much in this, and maybe a little bit different, but in terms of you taking the whole picture into consideration, he's very much in a similar position to what Luke Shaw was maybe 2 years ago or a year ago before Alex Tellez came in. We're thinking, okay, Luke Shaw's good. Do we really need Tellez? Some people said yes, some people said no, but we did see the benefit of that competition and maybe a bit of fear put into Luke Shaw of losing his spot. And Wan-Bissaka there, I think all of us do have him as our first choice right back. He might just need that kick, and it'll be interesting what happens. Antonio here said, I think defensively out the back four, attacking-wise, I think they need work. That'll be interesting, definitely on the right-hand side, but you do look on the left-hand side, Luke Shaw and Alex Tellez, arguably two of the best sort of attacking left-backs. Maybe numbers don't sort of back that up, but Varane's definitely comfortable on the ball, as is Harry Maguire. So everyone except Eric Bailly is probably good on the ball in the back four. He's the only one that does give you those nightmares. This last comment here, Pram, exactly right with Wan-Bissaka has more support on the right flank as well, which it might change the way we view Wan-Bissaka's performances on the ball when he does have Jadon Sancho there. It might differentiate. I remember when Antonio Valencia, he always had problems. It was very comfortable for him to play when Juan Mata was on the right-hand side, but when someone else was on the right-hand side, he sort of struggled for that link-up play. So we might see Wan-Bissaka sort of overlap in Jadon Sancho, and because they're definitely going to be doubling up on Jadon Sancho, which should give Aaron Wan-Bissaka a little bit more space, assuming Sancho obviously does play on the right-hand side. But just going into sort of the title of the podcast for this one, the most exciting thing besides Raphael Varane, Donny van der Beek is back. And my main question is, should we be excited? Because he does stem this excitement. You do get to this buzz around him, and it's a feel-good factor. He's always got a smile on his face. But if you remember back to last season, there was no positives around Donny van der Beek. It was a really negative story. So why do you think there is such sort of positivity in this push? Okay, he's back, get him on the field, when the evidence we have says, well, he doesn't get on the field.
Well, I think last season there are many factors as to why he didn't play. The true cause of it, only Solskjaer and Van der Beek will know. But ultimately, we were excited because we know that there is a quality footballer in there. Undoubtedly. And I think that with the Premier League particularly, and we saw it, he was utilised more in European matches than he was in the Premier League. And I think that was just obviously a pace adjustment thing. And it's so, I know it feels like such a lazy thing to say, Tom, but the Premier League is a different game. And if you're actually looking at, and if you've watched the Dutch league, which I haven't done religiously, but I've watched enough of it to know, it is a very technical league. It's similar to, if I wanted to compare it, I'd say it's similar to Spain in the sense of football's played on the floor. It's a very possession-based game. It's not one where you're seeing back and forth football. It's not one where you're seeing aerial crosses coming in. So your awareness in the Premier League does require a bit of an adjustment period. Van der Beek will get there. There is enough ability in that footballer that suggests he will make it at United. And I think this season, much like we've mentioned with Anthony Martial, is a make or break. He does need to solidify his position. Otherwise, we might be having a different conversation this time next year.
Well, one of our long-time listeners, good to see him, good morning to him, because I was over in Northern Ireland, but Jamie's saying he's seen Donny live in Belfast. He played box-to-box and bossed the game. Hope he does get his chance this season. I'm just thinking, you mentioned at the start of the podcast when we were discussing Paul Pogba, if you're leaning on one side of the fence, you're probably leaning towards him going now. We talk about this, okay, if even with Paul Pogba, you need a number 6. But if Paul Pogba leaves, you definitely bring another midfielder in. And I don't want to go down the line of, well, this is something that the Glazers would sort of suggest. But is Donny van der Beek almost like a new signing? Like, if Paul Pogba does leave, okay, yes, ideally you'd go and get, I don't know, Jack Grealish or someone. Unfortunately, it looks like he might be off to Manchester City. But can you put Donny van der Beek in that Paul Pogba role? Like, okay, he's not the same player, but you put him in the same position on the pitch. He'd perform that duty very differently. But that was the play you would have there and allow Bruno to sort of be that more advanced Pogba role?
I think so. I think what United are looking to do, and this is purely speculation here, I don't actually think they're looking at midfield players and saying, we need a destroyer or we need a ball-playing, deep-lying midfielder. I think they're looking at it as, we've got midfield options, all of them can play 6, 8, and 10. I think that's the approach they're taking. And the reason I say that is you look at the mold of the player Van der Beek is, we've debated constantly, what's his best position? You know what I mean? Like, there's an argument to say he can play any of those 3. Bruno Fernandes, there's an argument to say move to a 4-3-3, deploy him in the 8. Do we have any evidence that suggests Bruno Fernandes is an 8? He's played his best football as a 10 at Sporting Lisbon and Manchester United. We saw him deployed in a 3-man midfield for Portugal. He had a disaster. So is Bruno Fernandes not capable of playing in the 8 position? There's all these questions that we won't get clear-cut answers to. But I think from United's perspective, it's to say we have midfielders. Of course, Donny can play in a left side of a 3-man midfield or in a 2-man pivot I think it's just purely the adjustment to the English game for him.
Yeah, no, it's hard. And look, it's an important pre-season for him because last season, okay, he did come in quite early. He was an early sign-in, almost like Jadon Sancho and Varane have been this time. However, the pre-season was so disrupted last season. I think there was that one pre-season match away at Aston Villa, and Donny van de Beek obviously played in that. And he played in the first game of the season and scored against Crystal Palace. So it is a big pre-season for him because so many of the players, especially that front three, we have no idea how that's going to line up against Leeds. Just for a sheer fact, we don't know which bodies are going to be there. Whether they're injured or delayed coming back from the Euros. And you can have the same debate in the midfield area because Fred's obviously not back yet. Paul Pogba's not back yet. Probably the other name in there who is back. Do you expect him to play Scott McTominay?
Yeah, I think so. Can I ask you, Tom? I know that you're a fan of the Scotsman. There's this, I don't know if it's lazy. I don't want to say it's lazy because we have seen him deployed in a deep-lying midfield position. Do you think it would almost be wrong to put McTominay in at that number 6 position should we play in a 4-3-3? He's so strong box to box, and we saw what he did at times. I think he contributed with 7 or 8 goals last season, which is good for a midfielder. And I just wonder, would we be limiting his game by deploying him in that, I guess, that shielding position in front of the back four?
You're definitely limiting his game. There's no doubt about that. But what's more important, do you want to limit his game or get the best out of his game or get the best for the team? And you might need to sort of restrict Scott. And I'm definitely not saying play him in the 6. I'm not saying pin our hopes on Scott McTominay performing in that role for us. I'm saying, well, if that's sort of the best we're going to do, if it's Fred or McTominay, it's McTominay for me. And yes, it does limit his performance. But yeah, like I said, what's more important? Is it getting the best out of him or is it sacrificing to sort of get what's best for the team? And ultimately, the transfer market in that area will be what's best for the team. Or if we can sort of knock some years off Nemanja Matic. But yeah, look, I don't want to see him there. But if it does come down to a case we're going to play Pogba and Bruno together and you do need someone to sit a little bit deeper, it's definitely going to be McTominay. Well, ideally Matic, but let's do it over the course of a 38-game season. If it's Fred or McTominay, it would be McTominay for me. Now, I think Fred probably has not the better attributes. Yeah, I'd say he probably has better attributes to play that 6 role by himself compared to what McTominay brings. But in terms of like what I want to see and the sort of safety and security and consistency he would have on the ball, I would be opting for McTominay. Not that I do want to see that, though.
No, I agree with that. I think Fred probably has that better instinct for getting what's the term I'm looking for? For sniffing out a dangerous opportunity from the opposition, whereas McTominay can do the job.
Well, I think that comes down to just the instinct of McTominay is box to box. His idea is attacking. We don't really think with Scott McTominay that he's an attacking player, mainly because of his build and he does like a tackle sort of thing. But his first instinct, you win the ball, is to get forward. You look at that Leeds game, it'll just kick off, I'm just running forward. Fred doesn't make that run, and that's not a criticism of Fred. He doesn't make that run forward. Where Fred he's not a defensive player because he's quite a technical type player, but he is someone who, he does like a tackle in a different sense than Scott McTominay does. Scott McTominay likes the battle of the tackle, where Fred is a player who, as you say, sort of sniffs that danger and sort of gets in between lines and sort of pokes his toe in, etc. But Fred's not back yet, so McTominay does have that sort of advantage of sort of working his way into that team. And whether we haven't really lined up in that 4-3-3, which has sort of been promised so far, it has almost been a 4-2-3-1, but that is obviously dependent on we're playing like James Garner and Dylan Levitt in the midfield. That's definitely not going to be the case against Leeds or early part of the season. So just mentioning those two there, Levitt and Garner. Is there anyone, obviously, besides Anthony Elanga, who we'll both mention before we wrap up the podcast, anyone you definitely want to see sort of get a start against, or not a start against Brentford, but those more extended minutes rather than just 45 and 45?
Yeah, if someone can find out where Ethan Laird is, because I'm sitting here on this podcast defending the bloke week after week. Most of our listeners probably don't even know what the guy looks like. I'm telling you, this guy's a baller. I think he could actually be good competition with Wan-Bissaka. Nowhere to be seen. I don't know if he's dropped off the face of the earth or if he's still stuck at MK Dons. I don't know what's going on there. But can someone bring back Ethan Laird? Let me know where he is. I want to see him
they're playing Ethan Galbraith there, who's a midfielder, and they're playing him at right back.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like, he's a great player. I don't know if he's injured, what's going on there, but he's the one.
There must be an injury, or there could be an agreement like with Chong, who's going to Birmingham. There could be an agreement where he's already agreed to go on loan and he's just going to be training instead of risking himself in games. But maybe there is an answer out there. So if someone does know, please inform us. But if you are enjoying the video, and we'll pretty much wrap it up there. But if you aren't subscribed, please do subscribe. And you're holding your phone now. It takes 1 second. If you just click like on the video, that'd be very good of you. Anything else, Larry? Before I'll be interested to see Brentford, because they do get a lot of rave reviews. A lot of people do say they're a good footballing team, and they obviously are a Premier League team now. And they do kick off the season against Arsenal. And wouldn't that be a start if they could beat Arsenal on the first day of the season before we kick off against Leeds?
Yeah, I think it's a good challenge for United. Again, what we loved about the QPR game was the pace and the tempo at which the game was played at. I think Brentford will offer something similar. And you said it on the last podcast, Tom, when United come to town, that's the opposition's biggest game. And that's not an arrogance thing. That's just the reality of it. So another challenge for the players who do start that game. But I just want to see a better performance. I thought, while it was a trial and you don't read too much into it, United really got played off the park, I thought, against QPR. So you're just hoping to see a bit more out of those younger players.
Well, just to wrap up, just you mentioned fans there. This one is obviously the first game. Well, actually, we played, was it Fulham last season? The second last game of the season, there was fans. But this is another game where some of our English listeners could let us know, but there'll be no restrictions at Old Trafford. I'm sure they won't sell out Old Trafford tonight, but you could potentially see a full Old Trafford. Now, that won't happen, but it's exciting to see fans back, because obviously that first game in a couple of weeks against Leeds, we mentioned the highlight of my season last year was the 6-2 against Leeds, but it kind of got forgotten about because it didn't have that atmosphere. Well, we're going to get that atmosphere in 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously not here in Sydney. We're going to be sitting on the couch with a packet of chips and a beer, which I'll definitely accept. But it's a little bit disappointing given the news that we're stuck inside for another 4 weeks. But in those 4 weeks, it gives us the opportunity to keep going live and keep knocking these videos out and interacting with some different opinions in the comments. So we appreciate everyone for supporting us and getting involved in the comments and giving your opinion. And we'll have something we'll have to chat about tomorrow. Obviously, the review. We can review the dominant performance, hopefully, against Brentford.
Absolutely. And if Paul Pogba is out there watching this video, can you please stay? Because we finally got the Ollies at the wheel chant back. And if he leaves, then we're going to have another problem. So fingers crossed Paul Pogba stays for one season, just so I can enjoy the damn song, Tom.
Yeah, no, it is a good song. I'm a fan of the song. A lot of people don't like it because when we start seeing it, obviously everything.
Who doesn't like it? Get out of here.
No, I love the song, but a lot of it, I think everyone likes it. It's just the connotations that it did go south after it was sung. But who knows? It might have been Sanchez's fault now that the Sancho part has been replaced. Maybe it's a different thing. So hopefully everyone did enjoy the video. If you could like the video, that'd be very good of you. And we'll chat to you on tomorrow night, reviewing the Brentford match. So cheers. Have a good day, everyone, or night, day, wherever you are. Cheers.